Hey there YouTube, I got another video coaching review. This is the third one from Andrew. You can start to see some serious progress in his form since the first two. Huge thanks to Andrew for letting me use this as content on my channel. Many archers struggle with the same issues that he struggles with, and I believe that when people allow me to use their video coaching reviews on my channel, it helps others because others, like I said, oftentimes struggle with the same things or see the same faults in themselves and wonder how to fix it. If you're unfamiliar with what video coaching reviews are, this is what I do. I sit in front of my computer and I point out different things that I see that people can change in their equipment, their form, their technique, potentially training, or whatever else they're looking for guidance on. Many times people will just send me questions in regard to tuning and setup, and then I'll address them in this video, helping them with arrow selection or something similar. If you're interested in a video coaching review, I'll have links in the description below and a card at the top up there to my website, Kaminski.com, in case you're interested. And by the way, if you wouldn't mind, please do subscribe to this channel. It does help me out, and I appreciate it. Let's get to Andrew's video coaching review. Hey there, Andrew. Thanks for submitting another video coaching review. You sent me a message on Discord asking about hand tightness being too tense, and we'll get to that. I do agree you have a lot of excessive tension in the hand. There's a few things we can do to try to eliminate it as best as possible, and we'll cover that in a second. But first, let's go over your email here, or at least the message you sent me. So you were working on the stabilizing the hips and the core, and the consistency and releasing around anchor, tension, and direction, and your anchor itself. You're particularly focused on the consistency aspects of things and getting a bunch of recoil in your hips. That's probably hurting accuracy. Possibly. It could be, I'm not sure what you mean by recoil in the hips, if you're feeling them move after the shot. Just make sure you have the concept of maintaining the tension in the hips and the legs to stabilize until you finish your follow through. Don't release it or relax it upon release. Many people will do that, and that would cause, obviously, a change. The reason you're focused there first is that you have noticed some of the flyers into the edges of the targets from 3 and out. Whenever it feels right, you're solidly in the 6+ range as far as the target's concerned. That's good. So when you miss your release and follow through, your tendency is hit left and low. You think there's a few different things, and maybe it's one of these here. So sometimes you bring your bow up to the left of the target line, or you get your center of gravity left of your target line on your heels, and the string pulls across your chest, or plucking because you feel like all of the above has your draw hand alignment going back versus around. Possibly. Scenario 2 is you feel like everything is right in alignment, you feel perfectly stacked at anchor, but still manage to panic and pluck, resulting in a weak shot low and left. You try to feel as much into the transfer of tension in the front finger's hand to the back, but you still feel like a bunch of hand tension. It often happens when you click too early and you become conscious of trying to maintain tension, but not wanting to overdraw. You feel like the answer might be just more deliberate step through the proper sequence. Yeah, there might be something fundamentally. We'll see. I'll look a little bit deeper and see if I can give you a bit more on that. Let's see. In the videos, you'll see versions of scenarios 1 and 2. You want to see what I think about both the scenarios, and you'll be able to grade if you think your anchor is getting it. Yeah, I think, and through expansion, it may be sliding a bit across your SCM. Yeah, anchor. So anchor can't move. You can feel tension increase, but don't let it move at all. I've got 2 videos. This is the one you sent me, and then this is an additional one where you said it started to feel pretty good. So we'll start with this one first. I'll make it bigger. I'd say overall, not just your string hand, but the overall system has an excessive amount of tension in general. Because if you look at your overall, appearance, demeanor, whatever, you can see your face is naturally relaxed here. Obviously, you're not really doing anything, but still, it's fairly relaxed. But as you go to lift, and then once you, especially coming into anchor, you're still fairly relaxed. But just look how scrunched your face becomes. Like you have a lot of tension. You can see it in this one here because it's a lot more close up, but just look how much tension. You can see even you're pursing your lips. You've got a lot of excess tension. You're squinting really hard, and yes, you do have some excess tension here in the hand. So overall, I think just trying to make things a little bit more simple would probably be a little better for you. Obviously, you're making form changes, so it's very difficult to say make things simple. But some ways that you can make it simple. We'll start with the hand because you did ask about that first. Is this pinky here? I don't know if you're using a tab with a pinky hook. If you are and you're using the pinky hook, I would advise taking that thing off and throwing it in the trash because, and if you're not, well, then you're just putting your pinky in the way that people put it on the pinky hook. So let's talk about that. So if you're hooked here and you have the pinky, like this individual segment here, following the rest of these other fingers like this at full draw, this is a lot of tension. Lots of tension in the back of my hand, lots of tension in my wrist, and with my thumb like this or down, whatever, just that pinky like that. It's just, I have so much tension like this, I don't have blood flow in my hand, and I'm starting to go numb. Part of that, yes, is I have some forearm tightness that I'm dealing with because of all the work I've been doing. But still, it cuts off the blood supply to my hand. So curling the pinky in more, where that segment, the first segment of the digit there, instead of it being straight like the other ones are, put it in further, like a deeper curled pinky in further. And I find not having it, I can't even do it. It's so tense to get it in that position. Let me make it full screen. Putting it in this position where everything is straight, I have an excess amount of tension to begin with. If I just hook and I actually drop the pinky down like that and then curl in more to where this digit is not following these other three here. And so all I'm doing is hooking and curling, and it's curling that pinky in further like that and also down a little like that. Maybe it's easier for me because I've just done it so much this way and shot only this way for, I don't know, more than a decade now, almost 2. So keeping that down and curled and hooked there is a much more naturally relaxed position, and touching the thumb here, fingertips together like that, some place to put it. Where you put it is up to you entirely. But I find that itself is just one way to get a whole lot less tension. Going like this, I just feel the excess tension. So, and I can see it looks like your anchor is driven with the thumb being more up. I don't see the thumb being tucked down. Let me see if, none of these are from behind. Same with this. Yeah, they're all from the front. So, I'm trying to see what you do with your thumb, and it looks like you're doing like this. Like the thumb is up. The reason I'm saying it looks like this is because from this view, look here how it's invisible, and it protrudes up like this, like that. And that's what you look like you're doing here at full draw. It looks like you're pushing that thumb. The thumb is up, but the top of it's tucked down. So it's like that. And then the pinky's like that. And just putting my hand in that position is just an overload of tension. So tuck that thumb down, like genuinely tuck it down and pull it back from the index finger. Like not forward, but back. And it will open the hand up, and it'll be in a much more natural, relaxed type of position. And it will bend your wrist in the direction that is a correct way to do it. So meaning the wrist is bent that way, like that, not straight and not bent this way. I feel like in your video here, it appears like your wrist is almost bent this way, which is indicative of extra tension, and then puts you in, it's easy to get into this kind of position with the wrist bent this way. When you bend it the other way, bend it this way, it's much more natural to touch those digits together and kind of have them relaxed. So in addition to that is the facial tension overall. And it looks like you have a lot of excess exertion going on, I guess, for lack of better terms. And part of that could be your draw length. I feel like for whatever reason, at least now I'm aware of and can see your draw length looks a little long for what would be ideal. The reason I'm saying that is if you look in this position here, as you turn your head is neutral. It's sitting straight and flat, straight above your spine, and everything's good to go, and everything looks good here. But as you go to lift, watch what happens to your head. Head is still in a good position, but as you pull, see how now the head has shifted back a good amount, like you're doing a chin tuck like that direction. And I can feel myself, there's a lot of tension there, and I can see the head just looks like it's a little bit further back than ideal. So really trying to keep that head nice and still and natural and neutral, and then pull the string to the chin. But don't, if you have to over exert to get the clicker to click, the clicker just may be back too far, and moving it forward so you can be a little bit more relaxed and comfortable will be better. Your alignment may not be as good that way. However, with less tension in the hand, not being in this bent position, but being more in this position, it'll allow your elbow to get further around as opposed to here where it's further forward. So here versus here, you'll get that elbow in more, whereas this, it'll stick out more, even with a slightly shorter draw length. Your stance appears possibly to be a little bit excessively open. It's hard to tell because of the perspective of the camera, but it just feels like to me like your back foot is or your front foot, meaning your left foot here, is so far back that it just looks really far. So take an arrow, put the knock in the instep of your back foot and point it at the target. And then take your front foot and have the toe touch the arrow that is there. So meaning, remember the back foot and the front foot, if the target's this way, arrow in the instep of this foot pointing straight at the target, have the toe of this foot touching that arrow line. And that's just about how far open I would go. I wouldn't go any further than that. Maybe that'll help with the hips coiling or recoiling rather after you let go, because you do tend to still rotate those hips a little bit more towards in line with the target as opposed to keeping them over the target, over your hips. And that's possibly where the recoiling is coming from, because if you watch this shot, you'll see right now hips are relatively over your feet and ankles. You do have a little bit of a kick forward here on the hips. So standing more straight to begin with will allow you to get into position better. But you can see from here, now your hips are straighter, or your body's straighter. It's not broken in two pieces. Whereas here you can see it's like one piece, two pieces, right? So try to stack it together. But watch your hips here. As you start to engage and pull here, watch the hips. They turn towards the target. And as you lift, they turn towards the target. So now your hips are pointed probably towards the target, whereas your feet are open. And then when you go to release, the hips want to go back over the feet because that's a much more natural place to be at. So I think maybe your feet are maybe too far open, and because you're starting in that broken position, it's easier and it's easy to allow those hips to move, basically. So if you can stabilize and lock it with everything all in one piece, it'd be much better. Here you can really see. Let me see if I can move this up. Just you standing naturally, you got those hips kicked forward in this position here. Let me go back in time. where you're still loading your arrows. Yeah, you still have a tendency to kind of naturally stand with a lot of weight on that, a lot of weight with that hip kicked forward. You can just see it sticking forward right there. And then once you lift, see the hips turn, you still are slightly in two pieces. That then allows your head to be a little bit further back than what you would like. And you know, the overall control is difficult because of this broken, non-stacked system. The overall shot is getting better. Obviously, there's still some work to be done. There always is, though. But I think you're progressing fairly well. It's just being able to control the hip movement a little bit better is going to be important, and reducing the overall tension is going to be very beneficial for you. And I can see there's still just an excessive amount of tension. Instead of lifting more with the bow side and less with this side, you're engaging a lot with the bicep to pull a lot of tension with this hand lift being so high up. It's very unnatural in regards to how you're trying to shoot the bow, because the tension that you built to lift here has nothing to do with the tension you actually go to pull the bow back with here. That lifting that you got here, you're just doing unnecessary work to get to here to then come back down to pull. So for me, I like to just lift and gently settle into this position straight away, as opposed to going too high to then come down to then pull. You're building so much tension in the whole system because you're doing a unnatural, unnecessary lift here, which is building tension, and then it's never really going away, and then as you go to pull, you're dealing with this excessive tension. So possibly just relaxing the shoulders, lift a lot with the bow, let this just follow, because the string hand is hooked onto the string, and you can't move the two parts of the bow, meaning the string and the grip, independently up and down. They're relatively rigidly connected. They can move slightly independent of each other. But if I just hooked onto the string, lifted with the bow, I'd be in this kind of position where the elbow would naturally want to stay in line with the arrow, just keeping it under tension backwards. So that's actually primarily the bow side does the lift, and this string hand just kind of is helpful. It does not do 50% of the lift. It does maybe 15% of the lift, very little. And then it's more of rotation, bringing that shoulder back, making sure that steel chain, the hook onto the string to the chain to the shoulder is just following and building tension by rotating and leading with that shoulder, which then continues lift, pause, lead with the shoulder, as opposed to lift with the hands, get into this position, come back down to then go to pull. It's just a whole lot of excess work. So I think the change in tension in the hand will make a big difference. Possibly it'll eliminate so much of this lift automatically by just trying to keep that hand a little bit more relaxed. If not, try to add in a little bit more natural building of tension, as opposed to don't manhandle it. Just lead with the shoulder, hook onto the string with the hands. Don't lead or lift with this hand. Lift with the bow. Let this hand follow, rotate, and continue drawing with that shoulder. I would check the hips. Well, first check the feet, make sure they're not too open, and then really try to stand more stacked vertically before you lift the bow. That hip kicking forward in the two parts probably will be contributing to the hips continually moving throughout the shot, because you're unable to really lock them down to begin with. And then I think that should fix a bit of that follow-through issue you're dealing with, and the inconsistencies of the arrow hitting. You know, I think the slightly shorter draw length with the head being forward will probably move that string off your chest, and being able to I think getting rid of this excessive lift will probably also aid in keeping your chest down a lot better, because you're in a decent position here as far as the chest being down, but as you lift, I think you sometimes, actually as you're drawing, as the head is moving, the chest is coming up. So that in itself, keeping the head down and not lifting it up as you're drawing and keeping it in that forward position will probably keep that string off your chest even more so, and you won't have that issue at all, because it really shouldn't be touching your chest. You're not it's not like your pecs are huge or something. You're just a, fit body type thing, and the string shouldn't be touching your chest. So a lot of that has to do with, as you draw, this head lift up and back and this excessive tension being built. So try to keep that head down, a little bit more of an athletic position as you go to draw. And if you can't get through the clicker, just move the clicker forward. It should be head forward, staying in that position and keeping it there. And then once you're, straight, and, you keep your head straight, keep your core straight, all of that stuff, and you come into position, no matter where you anchor, as long as it's comfortable, have your wife check your clicker. Once you come to full draw, maybe even hum. Once you're at full draw and you're comfortable, go so she can audibly hear you make a noise, and that way she can tell you how far forward your arrow is of the clicker. And then I would move the clicker to be 2 millimeters behind that, so that way when you go to expand, you still have a little bit to move. That would probably be what I would suggest. It's really hard not being able to be there in person to kind of give you these guidances, because what you're struggling with is an excess of tension from an excess of movement, and without me being able to grab your arm and say, this is how you lift, and then you pull from here. You don't do this extra stuff. It's really hard. So I'm hopefully this is helpful, and you can at least understand some of this. If you can't do it with your bow, try to mimic some of the things that I'm talking about with a stretch band, or a even lighter draw weight bow, maybe even your wife's bow. I don't know what kind of weight limb she's using. Even if they're short limbs, they'll be fine. I practice drawing, and you'll actually see my wife's bow with the white riser and those NS limbs. Those are short limbs that are like 20 pounds or 24 pounds, and it's fine. They can go to 30-inch plus draw length, no problem. So if you can do it with a lighter bow, that just means that you gotta potentially spend some more time working on things without your bow to learn the movements, to build the strength in those ways, so that way you're not having to force your body to do some crazy things, or at least your body's not taking over when you're trying to do something else because of its lack of functional strength in that specific movement. It's not that you're not strong, it's that you just don't have the ability to move in that way using those particular muscles, because they're just not used to it, and the old way is just taking over as habit. I've been dealing with that with some people locally, and eventually finally just told them, look, you got to go down to draw weight. There's no point. You're not even trying to shoot long distances at this point. You're trying to stick to 20 yards only. So just go down to bow weight, learn the form first, and then we can crank your bow weight back up, and you'll shoot way more draw weight with a whole lot less effort once you get the movement down correct to begin with. So that's the way I would kind of start and approach it, and hopefully this helps. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks again for submitting another video coaching review. Take care.